because they're preparing for a postseason matchup against the Green Bay Packers. As
Hopefully multiple.
Yes, a long postseason run.
Yes.
We're all rooting for that here in Philadelphia. By the way, if you're not hearing Andrew Salciunas, it's because he's homesick today. Hopefully he'll be back tomorrow. I'm Connor Thomas sitting in for Andrew Salciunas. But it's a great time to be an Eagles fan for another reason, and that's the state of the NFC East. Washington has had a great year based on the standards that they probably had coming in. They've got new ownership with Josh Harris. They've got a young rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels that's going to be the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL and fully deserving of it. He's a stud, or at least he looks like one right now.
Sure,
we'll see how he progresses. Dan Quinn is a coach that has presided over winning organizations in the past, and they seem to be exercising some of those demons that existed with all of the crap that went on with their organization for like the past decade. So they're in a good spot. They're the only team besides the Eagles in the division that you could say are in a good spot. You got two teams that are absolutely lost. Now, the Giants, we know, we talked about it yesterday. John Mara had announced that Brian Dable and Joe Shane are going to be returning. So the GM stays, the coach stays after a season where not only did you stink, but you also won a game against the Colts that was meaningless to kill your chances of the number one overall pick. So things are great up there, up 95 in New York. But yesterday in Dallas, we got some interesting news. So there had been a report that the Chicago Bears had requested to interview Mike McCarthy. Now, McCarthy has not been relieved of his duties as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Correct.
But there was this thought that maybe it's time for him to get out of there. Maybe the Cowboys, it's time for them to move on. Brandon Graham said that they should keep him because he wants to keep beating the Cowboys. But ultimately, the Cowboys decided to deny the Chicago Bears' request to interview Mike McCarthy, basically saying, yeah, we're going to keep it for next year. That's dumb.
Yeah, it was. I don't understand what it's about, but I do think I know the answer.
What is that?
It's Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, the franchise quarterback, who you just paid the highest contract in NFL history. You gave him that money. He said he wants Mike McCarthy. So when you make that commitment, what do? When the Eagles were moving on, when Shane Steichen went away, the franchise quarterback, fresh off of a Super Bowl, he wanted an offensive coordinator.
That's true. Brian Johnson.
And he got Brian Johnson. 2 creams, 1 sugar. And he got 2 creams, 1 sugar to be his offensive coordinator, which obviously he was overmatched for at the time. He may end up being a great offensive mind down the line or a great head coach. Maybe he's like Nick Sirianni. He'll end up being a great head coach as like a facilitator, administrator, whatever, but not necessarily the strategy guy. Because last year, I wouldn't have picked him in a game of Connect 4, Brian Johnson. And that's against my little cousins. They'd swamp him. But, I mean, it's the idea is that I think that Dak got his way.
Yeah, and
I think Dak got his way. And I'm not sure that's – look, remember, he won 12 games the last 3 years.
Right. He has won a Super Bowl.
He won 36 games the last 3 seasons. When people point out Mike McCarthy as a boob, I think they make themselves sound like boobs.
Well, your guy Andrew Salciunas, who normally sits in the seat, is a big
He doesn't like
it.
But I think he will be smart enough to acknowledge you can't win 36 games in 3 seasons and be an absolutely awful head coach, especially when Dallas has not had the roster the Eagles have had.
Kevin Cooney, you hear that? Nick Sirianni's not a boob.
No, he's not a boob.
That's a fair point.
And by the way, more importantly, I think Kevin plays with that a lot of times because Kevin would know, and he's been in enough locker rooms. The Eagles players would never describe him that way. The Eagles players love playing for Nick Sirianni. He has great body language with his players. There seems to be. That doesn't mean that they probably don't think he's a dope at times for things he does. I know occasionally I'll look over at Connor or Andrew or Gunnar and go, Haley, they're dumb. You know, and it's just what happens in a working situation.
Absolutely. That happens everywhere all the time. And listen, we are deserving of that sometimes here on this show. But what I will say is there's no one right now that can make an argument that there's a better coach in the NFC East than Nick Sirianni. I'm taking him over all other coaches. Now, forget the rest of the league. We're just looking at division at this point.
No, division.
And Mike McCarthy, if Dak Prescott said, hey, I want this guy to be the coach of the Cowboys going forward because he's my guy, well, that's because he sees himself. Mike McCarthy is a solid football coach. He's okay. right?
Oh, wait. I think he's better than okay.
Well, guess what? A lot of people would argue that about Dak as well. You know what Mike McCarthy
the amount of coaches that have won 36 games over a 3-season period is a small number.
I got you.
In NFL history. He's not a dope.
You could say
he's not some cartoon character.
But, John, I could make that argument about Dak's winning percentage as a quarterback. They're the same guy. And they're good enough to win regular season games, 10, 11, 12 of them. They're not good enough to win a Super Bowl.
Okay, could Dak win a Super Bowl behind running with all of the weapons that he has here and with this Eagles defense?
I mean, probably.
Probably. He's a distinctly better passer.
But here's the problem. The guy running the organization's a moron.
No, but
they're never going to get the help they need.
I get you on that, but it's more of the question of Mike McCarthy and that idea of it. Like, he is not a dope.
Yeah, but to win with that organization, you need an over-the-top great quarterback, an over-the-top great coach to overcome the terrible Jerry Jones, who's running that organization, who makes moronic decisions.
How much does that locker room respect him? I mean, you think back to what Micah Parsons said about like a month ago when he completely threw Mike McCarthy under the bus. Like, that's one of your primetime players not respecting the coach.
Strategy? Because he said that after Dak went public about his support of Mike McCarthy. Strategy to exit?
Maybe.
I'm just thinking. Because Micah Parsons, to me, is he should be on Days of Our Lives. He is like, everything's drama with him. Everything is about him. Everything is so over the top.
Sounds like a Penn State person to me.
Well, no, because then we got Saquon, dude.
Look,
he's the anomaly.
Saquon alone.
He's the anomaly.
We got Saquon and Mike Missanelli.
But they're
rugged.
Here's my main point with all of this. Like, whatever you feel about Mike McCarthy as a coach, and there is an argument to your point, John, for sure.
He's not a cartoon character bad coach.
The Cowboys and the Giants keeping things status quo based on what they did this year is a good thing for the Philadelphia Eagles. The fact that they're not trying to change stuff, please, by all means.
Yeah, we're fine with that.
Absolutely keep this.
Stay the course.
Gives you a better chance to become the first repeat division champion in like 4,000 years. You know what? In honor of...
Thank you so much for checking out our content on the 97.5 The Fanatic YouTube channel. Hope you enjoyed the video. And remember, you can always be checking the playlist. There may be something you missed from one of our shows during the day that you want to go back and check out. So every time you like a video, like it, subscribe to the channel, and you'll have that great content coming to you every single day. You're greatly appreciated.